Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Rayhan Racha Wicaksana, and in this occasion, I will be presenting about code mixing and code switching. So let's just start from the first one. What is code mixing? Code mixing is a mix of one language to another language, usually two different kinds of language inside of similar or written or spoken text. Code mixing is a smooth bilingual technique that adds words from another language to the language without changing it in any way. So basically, a code mixing is a mix of one language to another language. Usually, it's it's two different language inside of similar sentence or similar written or spoken text. So next one is why why does code mixing happen? So the first one is comfort. Some ideas are easier to express in one language than another. So basically, uh, the comfort is if you wanted to explain something and that explanation is kind of makes sense on another language or in another language, you use code mixing when this happens. So the next one is social identity to show group belonging, modernity, or bilingual ability. So basically, in this point, code mixing happen when some people or some group uh, show their bilingual ability and modernity to it. So the third one in gaps in vocabulary. Sometimes a speaker forget or doesn't know a word in one language. So basically, uh, that's usually happen like when we talk about something and if we speak two different kind of language and maybe some word or some sentence there are we don't know the meaning of it in the language that we are speaking right now, and you only know it in the language you usually speak. So basically, that is what happened. So the final one is habit. In communities where many languages are spoken, mixing becomes routine. So at this point, maybe some kind of like communities or some kind of group like happen to speak multiple kind of language, and that's the point. That's when the code mixing happens. So next, we going to on the next slide. So this is the characteristic of code mixing. The first one is it happen inside of sentence. The second one is it is usually spontaneous and not planned. So basically, code mixing usually came out spontaneous, and we are not planning to do it. So the third one is it shows a high level skill of both language. It means that you understand the first and the second language. And the final one is different from code switching, where the whole sentence or large chunks are switched. So basically, code mixing, we only mixing a certain kind of word that that as we speak. So next one is this is the type of code mixings. The first one is intrasential code mixing, which have definition is mixing two language inside of one sentence or clause. So the second one is intra-lexical code mixing, which means mixing happens inside of single word, combining parts of two languages to create a blended word. And the third one is involving a change of pronunciation, which means mixing by adapting the pronunciation or grammar of a foreign word into a native language style. So we are going to the next slide. So this is the example of code mixing. In this example, I will be using the the Indonesian and English one because I live in Indonesia and I speak Indonesian and English. So the first one is intrasentential code mixing. For example, kemarin aku habis shopping di mall baru. Uh, the translation have yesterday I just finished shopping at the new mall. As we can see in here, the word shopping it's added into the Indonesian sentence. which so this is count of intrasentential code mixing. So the second one is intralexical code mixing. The example, aku harus nge-save file ini sebelum mati lampu, which the translation I have to save this file before the power goes out. As you can see, from the definition built before, which intralexical code mixing is add some word or some kind of phrase to it to a word that you combining the two different language into one word. So in this occasion, as you can see, the word nge-save it's a the word nge is a add on the first, like a meal, a mall, or something like that, and you add the word save to it, which is in English. So this sentence called an intralexical code mixing. And the third one is involving a change of pronunciation. For example, project itu sudah di-approve sama klien. The ones meant the project has already been approved by the client. So you can see it is kind of similar with the intralexical code mixing, because you add you add you add a word a foreign language word, in this case English, into an Indonesian word. So you mix it to that two different word into one sentence. So yeah. So we are going to the next material, which was code switching. So what is the definition of code switching? Code switching is a shift from one language to another during speech, often to serve a specific social, emotional, or contextual function. Code switching is the use of two languages or more by a speaker in the same language. So basically, a code switching is like in one sentence, you shift. When you talk or you write something and you switch it from one language to another language, that counts as code switching. So the differentiate about the code mixing and the code switching is when code mixing is mixing another word or a phrase into a sentence. A code switching is a switch before one language to another language during a speech, during when you talk or make a written text. So next, why does code switching happen? First one is to better express thoughts or emotion, which is sometimes when you talk about something and if you say in the language in your mother language, it's just sound kind of weird. That's when you use code switching, like if you and because some sentence or some phrase in this case are better is spoken with the foreign language, for example. So the next one is to adapt to the listener's language preference. This means that if you talk to someone that is not really a native or something like that, you use code switching to help it. The third one is show group membership or identity. And the final one is when one language like of appropriate word or a phrase. So basically, the last one is maybe some kind of word or a phrase is better to use it. For example, some kind of word you feel kind of like weird saying it in Indonesian, so you use English. That's code switching. That's code switching happen. So the next one is the characteristic of code switching. The first one is can happen at sentence boundary or intersentimental or within the same sentence or within the same sentence is it's a intrasentimental. So the second one is often intentional and reflect a change in topic, tone, audience, or emotion. And the third one is used to emphasize a point, include the cultural reference or signal identity. So basically, when code mixing happen, is usually it happen like simultaneously and not prepared. But code switching happen when you show the code switching itself because you want to change the language. So maybe in the like different topic or something because it sounded more appropriate. So the type of code switching. The first one is intersentential code switching, which means switching language between complete sentence or clauses. This type requires fluency in both languages because the speaker completes in thoughts in one language and start another in different one. So basically, intersentential code switching means that when you talk about when you talk in Indonesian in the first sentence and in the next sentence you switch it to English. That's the intersentential code switching. So the second one is intrasentential code switching, which means the switching language within the same sentence. This is more complex because it involves mixing grammar and the listener must to understand both languages to follow. So basically, this intrasentential code switching means that when you speak Indonesian in one sentence and then you switch it into English in that sentence itself. The third one is text switching or emblematic switching, which means inserting a text phrase, word, or exclamation from one language into another sentence, there is another. This is often for emphasis, attitude, or emotion. So basically, a text switching is you add a phrase or word maybe in English into an Indonesian sentence. So the next one is the example of code switching. The first one is intersentential code switching. For example, aku capek banget hari ini. I think I need a break. I really tired today. I think I need a break. See, if we can see that it switched from the first sentence, which is spoken in Indonesian, and and you switch in English into the next sentence. Like the first sentence says aku capek banget hari ini in Indonesian, and then in the next sentence, you switch it to English. Like I think I need a break here. I need a break. So the second one is intrasentential code switching. For example, I have to submit tugas ini sebelum jam 9. Basically, you often you maybe heard kind of like uh anak-anak Jaksel speaking kind of like this, like that's still count as intrasentential code switching because they switch they switch the language inside of one sentence like this. I have to submit tugas ini sebelum jam 9. Maybe you maybe you have heard in like cafe or on Instagram or Twitter maybe some kind of people use this kind of code switching. So the last one is text switching or emblematic switching. For example, capek banget hari ini, So basically, it is adding some kind of word. For example, in some language, adding one word in one language sentence into another language. So basically, if you can see here, it it means capek banget hari ini. The speaker speak Indonesian. Then after a comma, they added well, they added the words to like emphasize it and more maybe to show emotion about it, to show that there's really tired. So basically that is it. So I think that is all from me from this presentation. Thanks for your attention and wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.